Friends, Dave Paulides, Canadian Missing Project, and this is the executive producer of the show, Huck. And Huck is having a good day. She has been out running around like a crazy girl. It's warm outside, huh? Yeah, you're a good puppy. You're a good puppy, yes, sir. Oh, yeah. It's a little warm out there for you, huh? Yeah. So I just brought her into the cool air conditioning. She's going to be real happy now that she can relax and cool off because it was about 85 outside, and we just let her out, run around, come on back in. So, here we go. I need you all to go get a cup of coffee, some tea, some green tea, something to relax, get down in your chair, put your head back, and relax. Because we're going to get into some heavy stuff here. One case that I have followed for a long time. And we'll get into this case in a heavy way. But in the meantime, a man, very nice person, from Tennessee sent me a note. Said, your comments on having a personal locator beacon when you were hunting or hiking caused me to buy 4 of them on Amazon. I don't hunt or hike, but I have 2 brothers and 2 nephews who do these pursuits and are now in possession of these locator beacons. I don't enjoy hunting or hiking. That doesn't make me a bad person. Reading your 411 books reinforces my position on these 2 activities. Be alert, keep your powder dry. Mark. Now Mark sent me an updated article on a case I've talked to you about before. I did an entire video segment on him. Boy's name was Sebastian Rogers, 15 years old. Now as of late March of 2024, it said TBI search for Sebastian has not stopped. Updates from state and local law enforcement agencies regarding the disappearance of 15-year-old Sebastian Rogers have been few and far between. Still, authorities assert they continue to search for and follow up on any leads. Rogers, who suffers from a form of autism, was reported missing from his home near Beach High School at around 6:30 a.m. February 26th after his mother went to wake him up to go to school. Teen is believed to have left his home between 12 a.m. and 6 a.m. that day wearing a black sweatshirt, black pants, and glasses. A days-long large-scale ground search covering 2,000 total miles produced very few clues. Rogers is still the subject of an Amber Alert that was issued by TBI that day. On March 15th, the TBI issued a lengthy update on the case, urging the public to call in credible tips. Much of the work being done to bring Sebastian home may not necessarily be public or visible, the TBI said. The agency said that there are few clues to indicate what happened to Sebastian or where he may be. They have no proof that this is criminal, so agents and investigators are reviewing any possibility at all that may indicate where Sebastian is, the TBI added. The agency cautioned the public about putting too much stock into information being presented in various media forums. We ask the public to help us by refraining from sharing speculation posted. Yeah, that gets me frustrated too, because one person says one thing and somebody jumps on it and thinks, oh, it's got to be right. Yeah, not necessarily. The TBI also released a list of frequently asked questions about the case. What areas have been searched? Answer. Within the first several days of the search, more than 2,000 miles were searched on foot. Many of these were initially searched and searched again. That's a picture of Sebastian. I did a video about him. Sebastian's residence, the yard, the house, the vehicles all have been searched multiple times. The neighborhood where he lives has been canvassed. Neighbors' houses have been searched. Sebastian is autistic and his family says he is drawn to water. Pools in the neighborhood were searched. Dive teams were brought in. Bodies of water around the neighborhood and beyond the area were searched, including caves. What about the technology aspect? Have you collected video surveillance from homes? Many neighbors and businesses have provided video from home business surveillance systems. The videos have been collected and from the beginning of the investigation have been analyzed and enhanced. To date, nothing gathered from these video systems has been determined to be significant. We do caution that some surveillance video being shared in the public may have been misinterpreted or misidentified or not shown in its entirety. It has not been determined that it does not hold any evidentiary significance. Numerous search warrants have been executed, cell phone data has been analyzed, and any other available digital evidence has been collected, searched, and documented. Information was collected from Sebastian's gaming system and it has been analyzed with the help from the FBI. Vehicles that were placed in the area at around the time Sebastian's disappearance have been accounted for. These videos and all electronic evidence that has already been reviewed is also being re-investigated. What's going on in the investigation? What's next? The search for Sebastian has not stopped. Everyday tips and leads are investigated. People are being interviewed and re-interviewed. Evidence that has been reviewed once already is being worked again. We continue to ask residents in the area of the search to keep an eye on your property, see if anything may have been moved or displaced. Is this a place where a child could have hidden? If you have property that has ledges, holes, etc., please check. When reached on Tuesday about any possible updates, Eric Kradick of the Sumner County Sheriff's Office said that he had no new information to share and urged the public to keep calling in tips. This is from the Hendersonville Standard in Tennessee. These cases are really tough, folks. Really tough. I know at the beginning they said that there was some video surveillance of him leaving the house, may have been picked up by somebody, etc. So far, they have nothing. Nothing. How can somebody like this completely evaporate away? Well, as many of you know, I've talked about autistic disappearances before and how they have this commonality. Clues just go away. People are never found. It makes no sense at all. And it goes back to what I've talked about in the past, that people that have something mentally, physically, something wrong with them, seem to be a commonality in disappearances. Autism, dementia seem to be a couple of those. But if I put that person in front of you with a blank stare on their face, you wouldn't know anything was wrong. And I've stated this 1,000 times. It's almost as though someone is monitoring the health of our race, of our being, of the human race. It's a very, very, very strange phenomenon. Okay. The case I'm going to talk to you about is from Wyoming. If you've watched Missing 411, the UFO connection, which was filmed a lot in Wyoming, you would think, why would UFOs be in Wyoming? It doesn't fit a lot about what you talk about, Dave. Oh, it does. Because the Ogallala Aquifer has arms that stretch into Wyoming. And part of that movie talked about a farmer who had a piece of property that was very dry, couldn't get any water. And supposedly some alien said, dig here. And he hit a gusher. Water. People always doubt me about this. I don't care. You haven't followed or know what I know. These entities are intimately involved in water. They hide in water. They use water as a highway, etc., etc., etc. And in Wyoming, we had a hunter that disappeared who said he was abducted by some kind of entity taken in a craft. Now you can watch my 3 movies, Missing 411, Missing 411 The Hunted, Missing 411 The UFO Connection, all for free on Tubi, T-U-B-I, online. Free to watch them as much as you want. Every time you watch them, it helps me. If you put it on in the background while you're working, it helps me. As much as you can do it. it helps. Wyoming, strange place. From the very beginning of my research, I was covering cases in that state. And it didn't make a lot of sense to me at the beginning. The more I understood, the more I got it. In the case I'm going to talk to you about, I'll lay out the profile points at the end. They're so obvious. The case involves a man named David Crouch. It's David. Missing August 31st, 1997, 27 years old. Graduated from 1988 Queen Anne's County High School in Maryland. He was married. He had no kids. He was married to Donna McKenzie. They were Kent Island natives. He had 2 brothers, 2 sisters. Glenn and Jay were his brothers. If you guys know Glenn or Jay, tell them to watch this. I'd be interested to hear from them. Now, Dave lived in a city called Stevensville, Maryland. He owned a bike shop called the Bike Doctor. And he was known as an outstanding mechanic on bikes. Extremely well respected. Well liked by his peers and the people that worked for him. In fact, on the Disappearance, they talked about how much they liked him. Now, he was a long-distance runner, sailor, bicyclist. He was an athlete. Loved the outdoors. On their wedding honeymoon, David and Donna actually went on a hike. So they were committed. Well, David was part of a big trip to Wyoming. He was going with friends. A man named Joe Erickson from Baltimore had done the trip to Wyoming before. And going on the trip with Joe Sr. was a son, Joe Jr., his friend Doug, and Doug brought Brad. When they heard about Brad, they said he's a great fit. Athlete, outdoorsman, he'd be perfect. Well, Joe enlisted the assistance of a man named Terry Pollard, who's an outfitter in Wyoming, Pinedale area, which would lead the group for a week of fishing and hiking in the Wind River mountain range. Friends, if you've never seen this range, it's breathtaking, beautiful, unbelievable that it's even there. So we're going to talk about this area near Moya Canyon. Pinedale, Wyoming is over here. This is all part of the Wind River Range. And if you can see all of the bodies of water, hundreds. Why is that important? I have stated consistently, in these high mountain ranges where there's hundreds of bodies of water, there are always many disappearances. Always. This area has had several disappearances, very similar to David's, that we're going to talk about. Now, the location was about 90 miles south of Teton National Park. Very high peaks in this area, some over 13,000 feet. A lot of the area that they were going to be in was going to be above tree line. That means there's no foliage on the ground, just rocks, boulders. Hard to get lost, right? The cost was going to be $225 per day per person. And friends, they had pretty lush accommodations for camping in the wilderness. The outfitter did a really nice job, cooked every meal for them, stayed in nice accommodations that they built. Part of this trip occurred over Labor Day weekend. And according to everybody of notoriety, there were a lot of people in the high country. We all hear you, Huck. The area east of Pinedale, first of all, if you've never been to Pinedale, Wyoming, you got to go. People are friendly, some good businesses there, fairly remote. The area east of there, stunningly gorgeous. Stunningly gorgeous. The group arrived in Wyoming, met with the outfitter. Outfitter going to escort him into the backcountry. Joe Erickson Sr. told the group, on this trip, we must all stay together. Very, very wise words. On August 30th, August 29th to August 30th, the group spent the night in the high country. The group was directed that they were going to go to Moya Canyon to fish. They hiked out there, had a really good day, returned to camp, and again, this is cushy. The outfitter was cooking a great dinner, fire going. In the high country there, it gets cold at night. Even though it's August, in the daytime, you're at such high elevation, you're above 10,000 feet. It can get 30s and 40s at night. Well, that night of August 30th, Dave made a comment, hey, we only have 7 days and a lot to see. The group was staying at the south end of Lost Lake, quite an appropriate name, and then sat around what they wanted to do the following day, which would be Sunday. Everybody had an equal say, but Joe Sr. had been there before, knew the area. Guys wanted to fish, see the sights, so they were going to try to hit a different area each day, kind of feed everybody's interest. Well, August 31st, the group woke up early, had a great breakfast, and then they hiked 2 miles to a place called Island Lake. Epically beautiful, high peaks in the surrounding mountains, granite boulders everywhere, rocks. Again, no foliage anywhere, just a beautiful area. As they approached the lake, the guys agreed with the outfitter that they were going to meet at 2 p.m. at a place they identified as Fremont Crossing, where the outfitter would have a fire going and a warm lunch. Friends, if you've never gone camping in a cold, wet area, having a fire going and a warm meal, that just feeds the soul. I can't tell you how good that would be. I've never had that happen for me, so I don't know. Well, they got into the lake area, Island Lake, and the group separated out to fish a different section of the lake, and David walked to the south side of the lake. Everybody saw him fishing there for a long time, most of the day. Then they all said that as it got closer to lunch, they kept looking over to where David was, and he was there 1 minute and gone the next. That's what their words were. Well, they thought maybe he had to go to the bathroom or something, so he hid somewhere. They didn't know. But 3 out of the 4 guys made it to Fremont Crossing at 2 o'clock and had lunch with the outfitter. David wasn't one to miss a lunch, so it was highly unusual that he didn't make it. The guys finished their lunch, and they decided they were going to search that bowl area of the lake and look for him. They first went to that area on the south side. They saw his footprints, but it was rocky, and they quickly lost the tracks, and they couldn't figure out where it went. Nobody saw him leave the bowl. They searched the entire area of the lake, called his name, looked around, went back to the outfitter and started to explain their concerns. Eventually, the outfitter got a hold of emergency services, and the sheriff for Sublette County, Wyoming, responded and set up a search and rescue. Now, this area has dual jurisdiction. It's a U.S. forest, and it's in the county. In this area of the world, the county sheriff took the charge of the search. Now, Bob Reese was the district ranger for the United States Forest Service and was interviewed by the press. And he estimated that there were at least 80 hikers within 2 square miles around Island Lake where David vanished. That's a lot, folks. If there are that many people, then you could ask somebody for help if you got hurt, etc. Nobody had reported anything. Another local outfitter was interviewed for the article, and he guesstimated there were 140 people in that 2 square miles. A very popular hiking area. Well, the Sublette County Sheriff had an airplane fly over the area. Then they had helicopters ferry searchers in. Now, Sublette County, you got to put this in perspective. The county is 5,000 square miles, and they have 15 sworn deputies. Think about this. 15 deputies. It's covering 7 days a week. Well, you have 3 shifts, 8 hours a day. Counting days off, there's all your deputies. Covering one area, one district of the county. But no, you got to spread those out over the 5,000 miles, square miles. That really gives you nothing. Really nothing. Well, as I've stated 1,000 times before, search and rescue is done really by volunteers, not by sworn personnel. They may manage the search, but they're really not doing the searching. Now, the sheriff was a man named Rutland, and he volunteered to be the search and rescue manager. Searchers were ferried to high elevation to search by helicopter. Canines were also used earlier in the search and later. Now, as in almost every instance I can tell you, profile points. Remember, within a couple days after David was reported missing, snow, rain, and temperatures dropped significantly. Weather. Yeah, for late August, early September, weather inundated that area. Drove everybody out of the high country. Except when David was last seen, he was not wearing heavy clothing. He had a fishing pole and no other supplies. Not good. Searchers did find a couple hikers that were going between Island Lake and Moya Canyon. And they were asking people as they were searching if they had seen somebody described as David. And they said on August 31st, they were hiking a trail towards Island Lake from Moya Canyon. And they passed a man going towards the canyon that was wearing a black plaid shirt, blue jeans, carrying a fishing pole. He was about 5'10", light brown hair, and was fit. That was a perfect description of what David was wearing and looked like that day. The hikers said they said hi to him, and he didn't respond. Maybe they didn't hear him. So he was heading to Moya Canyon. Now, why is that important? He was there a day before he disappeared. So maybe he wanted to go back Now the trail dead ends into Moya Canyon. So they were having a difficult time understanding how he could get lost. The trail ends where he fished the other day. SAR teams went into Moya Canyon. Planes flew the area. Helicopters flew the area. They weren't finding anything. David's father, William, and David's wife, Donna, and her sister flew to Wyoming. Now, Donna and her sister were put in a plane and flown over the area of the search so they could understand the topography and the wide area that they had to search. Searchers did find something interesting. They found a freshly killed mule deer by a mountain lion. Now in this area of Wyoming, there's also grizzly bear. And you gotta worry about predation, especially if you're not carrying bear spray or a gun. Searchers said they found no trace of grizzly bears in that area in recent times, namely scat tracks. And there was no sign of any animal predation other than the deer. My take on that is if the mountain lion recently killed a mule deer, it's not hungry. It could feed off that mule deer for a week. But that's what search and rescue workers do. They look for signs of animal kill, predators being in the area. Now the closest city to the search was Pinedale, Wyoming. Searchers and the family made it a point to say that the people of Pinedale were super supportive. They said they'd give you the shirt off their back. Everybody wanted David to be found. Sheriff Rutland said that he was able to narrow down the search to a couple of square miles between Moya Canyon and Island Lake. He also said that in his decades with the sheriff's office, it was super unusual to have someone disappear for more than 3 days. Usually they found him in that 3-day cycle. Search and rescue lasted over 2 weeks. An extraordinary amount of time for a county with very few resources. They called in search and rescue teams from throughout Wyoming, and they did respond. Now, near the end of that 2-week cycle, they brought in cadaver dogs to search the area where scent dogs had already searched. Sheriff Rutland said that one cadaver dog went into Moya Canyon and reacted as though it found a scent. Couldn't find David. Don't quite know what to make of that. If they found a scent in one day, why not go in another day with another dog? But they didn't. The theory that was bantered about after the search is that David was getting bored fishing on the lake. And he was somebody who liked to wander around, see the scenery. And they thought that he just got up, wanted to go back to Moya Canyon, where he was the day before. Theory was he went into Moya and got lost, even though the trail ends there. When that weather settled in, temps during the day were in the 30s, and at night they got into the low 20s and as low as 18 degrees. He was not dressed for this. So they thought after 2 or 3 days of that, he would have died. Thus, sending in cadaver dogs. It was an appropriate decision. Various reporters in Maryland tried to interview family members. His wife and his dad didn't want to talk much. Within the last year, somebody took interest in this case, a reporter. I wrote about this case, and it's in my books. But a reporter took interest in this. They re-interviewed the sheriff, and he said that it's something that's bothered him for his entire career. He's retired now. He says, I think about it. It's one of the few times I failed. He says, I don't have any answers really about why we didn't find him. So the issues, in my mind, is that they had a confirmed sighting on David on the trail. 2 hikers. They had his scent from the campsite. Why not put the dogs on the trail at the point that he was last seen? They know he was going towards Moya Canyon, trail him into there. I'm hoping they did that. They didn't say that, but I hope they did. And they had no luck. Now, he disappeared in an area of hundreds of lakes, water. There's a cluster zone of disappearances. Cluster zone. Boulder fields and granite are everywhere in this area. 3. He was fishing at Island Lake, within sight of his friends. In their words, he was there 1 minute and gone the next. Point of separation. They sent in cadaver dogs. Couldn't find the body. It's been 28 years, and thousands of hikers have gone through this area. And David's never been found. That makes no sense to me. I'm sorry. That fishing pole will last forever. Why hasn't that been found? Case bothers me a lot. There's a quote from a research project sponsored by the Smithsonian Institute from 1879. From U.S. Army Colonel Albert Brackett, who went into the Wyoming mountains, and he wrote about it. It's very appropriate. Here's the quote. The high peaks, that's the area he was in, David, are a scenic overlook into the spirit world. When someone approaches death after a long and full life, he finds himself near the top of a high mountain in the Wind River Mountains. And as his breath leaves the body, he reaches the very pinnacle. And there in front of him, the whole magnificent landscape of eternity is spread out. And the Son, the Father, is there to receive them and to do everything in their power to make him happy. I pray that David Crouch is happy in heaven. I don't point fingers at people who make mistakes, but I will talk about learning experiences if I could save a life. This is David's first trip to high altitude like this. And I will tell you that once you get in an area above 10,000 feet, things happen quickly. Weather changes fast, and it's deadly. And when Mr. Erickson said that when you're in this area, we stay together, those were wise words. I wish David would have paid attention. And as you know, I've told others that your cell phone now, most modern cell phones, have a personal locator beacon built into the phone. If your phone does not, buy a personal locator beacon. They're about $300. If you're hurt, you need help, you activate the locator beacon, it goes to a satellite, and that satellite goes to the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration, and it says that somebody needs help. They look at the GPS coordinates, and NOAA calls the search and rescue for that area. Very effective. Saved thousands of lives. Thank you for being here. You are greatly appreciated. I haven't asked you to do this for a while, but I'll ask you now. Please share this on your social media. This can be a learning experience for many people. And since we are in the middle of summer and people are going to be hiking and going out, some people need to hear this. They were in an area. David was in an area with bears. He should have been carrying bear spray. If you knew anything about firearms, you should have been carrying a gun, because a gun can also be used as a locator. Fire a gun 3 times in rapid succession. That means you need help. If Donna, his wife, happens to watch this, you have my utmost respect for going out and trying to find your husband. And if his brothers or sisters are watching this, I tried the best I can to get these facts correct, and treat your brother with respect. Again, please share this on social media. You can buy my books at NA, like North America, nabigfootsearch.com. Be safe. And this is the kindness revolution. It costs nothing to be kind. And more of us need to be kind during these times. Be friendly. Waiters, waitresses, clerks in stores. Smile at them. Ask them how their day's going. Paulides out.